We'll call this regular council meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Mr. Bob Nicholson, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you remain standing for a moment, please? Justin?
Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this opportunity that we have here today to gather as a community. Lord, we just stand on your word in Psalm 133 that as brothers and sisters dwell in unity, there you command your blessing, life forevermore. Lord, we just thank you for this community that we can gather together and find purpose in serving one another and serving this community. We just ask that you be with the leaders here in this room, give them wisdom, and give this community provision for the days ahead. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Okay, Kathy, roll, please.
Powell.
Here.
Hayes.
Here.
Barstow.
Here.
Lee. Hicken.
Here.
Walther.
Here.
Carter.
Okay, we have a quorum present. First thing on the agenda tonight is one of the things I like to do the best. We have a proclamation. Tonight with us is Jason Umstadt and Anna Jeffries from the Licking County Board of Developmental Disabilities. If you'd come up to the podium, please. Make it official here. I'll put my coat on. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. You're fine. She just the picture taker?
Yep. She's much more than a picture taker.
That's her job tonight. Okay, very good. We'll have a proclamation tonight, and very proud to do this. I understand we're doing this first because I think you're running off the heat, because they're going to get going tonight also. Very good. All right. People with developmental disabilities are residents of our community who live, work, and attend school in Licking County. And as residents of Pataskala, they value what we all value, the opportunity to live a full life in the community where they can live, work, and pursue their interests and outcomes side by side with their peers. And as a community, it is important that we are aware of the unique experiences, perspectives, and abilities of all of our citizens. The best way to embrace this is to encourage openness and inclusion and eliminate barriers to participation so that all people can fully access our community and its resources. The Licking County Board of Developmental Disabilities is dedicated to supporting efforts and opportunities to promote inclusion around Licking County. Therefore, I, Michael W. Compton, Mayor of the City of Pataskala, Ohio, do hereby proclaim March 2017 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month in the City of Pataskala.
Thank you.
Thank you. So ready and heat, you said hi. Sure, you sure can.
I want to thank Mayor Compton. I want to thank the Pataskala Council. I want to thank the citizens of Pataskala for your generous support of the Licking County Board of Developmental Disabilities. You may not know it, but 24% of the people that we support reside right here in Pataskala and some over into the Adna area. I myself am a resident of Pataskala and I'm very proud of that fact. And again, we are very grateful for your continued support and look forward to many, many years of working with you. Thank you very much for this proclamation.
Thank you, sir. Okay. We'll move into citizens' comments, and we have 4 presentations tonight, short ones. But so I would ask if there's any citizens who wish to speak. They could speak now before we get into our presentations if they have to go home for dinner or pick up the kids or anything. Anybody wish to speak? Okay, we'll start at the top of the list here. Mr. Brown from Licking County Health Department.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it.
So I just basically wanted to come and give you guys a quick update on the inspections that we were going to do regarding septic systems out on Helen and Christie Lee Drive. So I think I came here in October, maybe. I'm not sure when. And then we conducted the inspections in November. And I've been trying to get here, but we're trying to work out our calendars, and it hasn't worked out until now. So I apologize for the delay. So we did conduct inspections on Helen and Christie Lee Drive on November 9th and November 10th of 2016. And we went out there as part of our operation and maintenance program that's been mandated to us by the Ohio Department of Health, where we have to start inspecting the septic systems in the county. Prior to any inspections occurring, we sent out a notice to all the residents that reside on Helen and Christie Lee. And basically, we use the same model that was used by the CAUV program with the auditor's office. And it's a obnoxiously lime green postcard that is not easily missed. And basically gave them a notification that we'd be out doing the inspections. We're mandated to do so. And also indicated on there if they would prefer to give us a call. And we would do our best to set up an appointment with them to conduct the inspections. In addition, I know there were some concerns expressed during the public meetings that we had here over at Licking Heights High School regarding our folks and how they'd be identified. So all of our folks wore their department issued IDs. They also wore the safety yellow vests with our department's name on them, and they drove a departmental vehicle that had our department's name on it as well. So we didn't sneak up on anyone. We conducted a total of 32 inspections out on those two roads. I assume you're all familiar with where they're at, over there off of Mink Street, just south of Licking Heights High School. Of the 32 inspections we did, we encountered a total of 18 homeowners who were home at the time of the inspection. We would prefer that. That gives us a chance to interact with the homeowner, talk to them. If they have questions about their system, educate them at that point. And we also give them a handout regarding the type of system that they have and how it should be maintained and how it should operate. And I will say, everyone that we encountered was, there was no violence or no one was out of shape about it. Everyone we encountered was very polite, very accommodating, and we really appreciated that part of it. We found a total of 27 aeration treatment units and 5 traditional septic systems out of the 32. So of those aeration treatment units, what those are a septic tank with 3 compartments, and in the middle compartment is a motor that injects air into that compartment, creates an aerobic environment where aerobic and bacteria then treat that sewage. And then when it comes out the other side, it's clear. The individuals that sell those tanks will tell you could drink it when it comes out the other side. I've not seen them do that, so when they do, I will, I guess, at that point. These systems here are the ones that we've been trying to target and look at, mainly because if that the motor's not running or if that tank system's not serviced, then it's just going to discharge untreated sewage to a road ditch, a tile. In this case over there, there is a stream that runs through there, and that's mainly where they discharge to. Of them, we found 22 were operating in a satisfactory manner. 2 were found to be marginal. So by marginal, they either had to increase the runtime for the motor itself. The motors are designed to run on a 24/7 basis. In the 70s, when they were put in, they weren't. So what the company found was, as they kick on and off during the day, it would reduce the life of the motor. So they decided just to turn it on and run it 24 hours a day, and that way it would work better. Or the tank needed to be pumped, where the solids level was too high. And we found that 3 were failing. So basically, these numbers were much better than what we had anticipated finding. Usually we find about 30% or 35% are failing. However, what we did find that of them, 9 have been serviced within the past week. So the individuals got their notice and then call the service provider to come out and service their system so that it was operating properly. That's fine with us. We'd rather that occur. We want the system to operate properly. That's really the reason for the program. So folks that will maintain and keep their systems working properly, not causing a public nuisance, and not allowing untreated sewage to discharge off the property. So the homeowners were provided, like I said, with a fact sheet regarding the type of system that they had, and they are also provided with a copy of the inspection report. This was one of the smaller areas that we had to do. We have 11 target areas in the county. They were picked out basically because we've had historical problems in those areas with nuisances, and so we picked those 11 target areas to start at. And we counted, in our department, since Helen and Christy Lee are right next to each other, we kind of just counted that as one. My staff just parked and walked essentially to all of them, so which was the goal, and made it go quicker as well. So those are the results. I wanted to come back and let you know what we found, let you know that we didn't encounter any issues or any concerns during the inspections, and that I think giving prior notice is something that we will continue to do as we move throughout the county. And anytime we do these inspections, we'll give that notice. And I tried to figure out how to do that. And talking to the CAUV folks, they said that their program had worked very well, and so that's what we're going to continue to do. We do have what we call a stakeholders group that has elected officials on it. It has a member of the public on it. It has some industry folks on it as well. We're going to pull them back together, present these results to them as well, and then I'm in the process of formulating a plan for what we're going to do this spring and summer and present it to them at that point. I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
And before we get into that, just for the record, would you give a name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Chad Brown, Licking County Health Department, 675 Price Road, Newark, Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions? Yes, sir.
So, hi, Mr. Brown, how are you?
Great, good to see you.
So, I have a couple questions. So, you had three systems that were failing and two that were marginal.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the two that are marginal, what action does the homeowner have to take on the marginals?
Certainly. Like I said, the one that we encountered was a motor that wasn't running 24 hours a day. It's as simple as flipping a switch inside the house, and the individual did so.
Okay.
The other one, the tank needed pumped. The tank was pumped, and the system was back up and running.
So the three that are failing, where do those folks go from here? What are they?
Certainly. So back in November, we provide them with the inspection report, which gave them 10 days to come into compliance. I know there was some concern issued on at the public meetings where we're going to come out and start to prosecute everybody and do all that. Basically, we gave them the notice. All those individuals contacted us and said, okay, hey, I get your notice. We want to come into compliance. I may need a little bit more time. We allotted that, and all three then came into compliance by having the system serviced. A lot of times what will happen is sometimes a breaker in the house will kick, and there's no electric going out. It's as simple as resetting the breaker. Sometimes it's a motor that hasn't been in service in 20 years. So that needs that type of action. But,
So on the two, the marginal, and the three that were failing, you just came out and rechecked those to make
Yes,
sure
sir.
that they were okay.
Absolutely.
And there weren't any further problems. Did any of the? I know we had talked about folks possibly that there was some money for folks who might need assistance. Did any of these folks, the five, I guess, that needed some fix, did any of them need to take advantage of that?
They did not.
Okay.
No, and we still have that money available. I'm glad you brought that up. I should have had it in my notes, and I apologize. We still have about $150,000 or so available for this year, and we just received notice that we were awarded $300,000 additional dollars for next year. Okay. One thing I will say about the money that we were awarded for next year that may be of interest, we can use up to half of that money to assist homeowners with connecting to public sewer. So if you have projects or something that's going on in the city, let me know. We have to get through the 2016 funding first, but we can use up to half of it for that process as well.
I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
It happens to me all the time, so that's not a problem.
We'll come back to you if you think about any other questions for Mr. Brown. Yes, sir.
I guess, hi, Chad. I guess one of my questions is, given that you've taken a look at this and you're seeing that they're in a targeted enforcement area, and I don't know if Pataskala has any more. Is Woodside?
Woodside Drive, yes, sir.
I mean, that would be the other one. Have you given any thought to the feedback that goes back up the chain that says we're not experiencing what you guys said we would be experiencing, so we can possibly not, we can back off on this in some way, or is there a mechanism for that?
We can always provide comments to the state, and the regulations that went into effect on January 1st of 2015 are on their state's normal 5-year rule review process, so when they open up for comments, we'll definitely deliver those. I don't know that we have enough data yet to suggest that. The area that we did prior to this, we had about a 35% failure rate. We
Outside of Pataskala?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I was in Licking Township. Here of the 9, we had 9 that were serviced because of the notice. Hey, that's great. We'd rather do that. I think the idea was that we would collect data on all 11 areas and then look at that data and then make a good informed decision on how we're going to go from there. But yes, the program is open to, change. And we want to make those decisions based on the data, the real life data that we know is accurate, that we collect from the field. If it shows that we don't need to be there or it doesn't need to be done annually, yeah, definitely. We'll be definitely open to making a change. Absolutely.
It's not directly related to Helen and Christy Lee, but I guess I would ask, one of the things that came out of that input session from the citizens of Pataskala was the health department adding the ability for people to submit and possibly do their own. Can you give us maybe just a really quick, are people taking advantage of that, or is it too early because you're only on the targeted enforcement section?
Certainly, yeah, it's still too early at this point. The way the state has told us they want this to flow is they wanted us to go out and do the initial evaluation, which is at no cost to the homeowner at that point. It doesn't cost them anything. We just go out and do the inspection. After that, we'll put on trainings for homeowners. We're looking at scheduling one over in Licking Township because the annual deadline's coming up over there. We're going to try to put something on there and put it together. Sure, we'll give homeowners every opportunity to take that. Anytime we can get out and educate the homeowners on the system, we're going to take advantage of that. And if we can do so, that's exactly what we'll do. But at this point, I think, especially for this area, we're just a little bit too soon to get
Okay. And then the last question I might have has to go to, in either instance, although you mentioned that it sounds like maybe you looked at every home even though some homeowners weren't there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You mentioned that I think one of the other concerns of citizenry was, like you mentioned, an enforcement action begun to be taken, and has there been any initiation of enforcement actions? Not any place in the program.
Certainly, no. I can say that. Well, it depends. When we technically, I guess, when we hand them that order, it says 10 days. We've technically started enforcement.
You've started
action.
enforcement.
If you want to look at, maybe we can use the term prosecution. No, I mean I've been with the health department since 2000. I've been to court 3 times, and 2 times I didn't testify. 1 time I did just because the person didn't respond to the summons. So the judge didn't take kindly to that. But we have never prosecuted anyone to where we kicked them out of their home or anything like that. Like I said, I've been at this a long time. That's not the goal. I mean, that doesn't serve us. That doesn't get us anything at that point. We basically just wanted the system to work correctly.
That's all for me.
Did you think of your question?
I did. and an additional question.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What are the next areas in the city for 2017?
Certainly. The only other of the 11 areas in the city, you had Helen and Christy Lee and Woodside Drive. This is the only other area in the city.
Okay.
Prior to doing that, we'll get with Mr. King and let him know. And I'll be happy to come back if you want me to come back prior to that. And we'll definitely send out those notices ahead of time, as well.
You said that 9 people had service before you got there. Is it your belief that those 9? Do you know? If maybe you don't know, what would the status have been if they hadn't been serviced?
I really have no idea. I'd be speculating.
Okay.
My assumption is they weren't working, but who knows? I can't say.
It could have been marginals, or
and it could have been just it could have been 9 folks that were due for their annual. Who knows? So yeah, I can't speculate on
okay.
that.
Thank you, sir.
Could
That's
have
all
been
I
as
have, Mr.
simple
Mayor.
as a pump out.
It could have been. Yeah, could have been that simple. Yes, sir.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Brown? Yeah, I'd love it that, when you complete the Woodside, come back and again give us
Oh, yeah,
another-
absolutely. Yes,
I
sir.
mean, as we track this, it sounds like, as Mr. Hickens said, that probably not as bad as everybody thought, but then again, something that needed to be checked and
Right.
and corrected. So
I really
very
hope
good.
it's not as bad as we thought. Let's be honest. So,
So,
Interesting, though.
any other questions? All right, well, thank you, sir.
thank you very much. I appreciate your time and have a good evening.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the list is Sarah here tonight? Sarah's not here tonight, so maybe she'll pop in later, and if not, I'll plug the Easter egg hunt when I get my chance to speak. Justin Ross from Impact City Church.
I'm actually going to refer to Bob Nicholson.
Okay, very good. Bob, need a name and address, please,
Bob Nicholson, 161 Shell Ridge Drive, Pataskala.
and your association with the church.
I am a member of the church,
Okay.
and also am here to talk to you guys about LeaderCast 2017. If you recall last year, Mayor, and thank you for letting us come tonight, Last year, Justin came and spoke to you guys about LeaderCast. For those of you who don't know what LeaderCast is, LeaderCast has been around for about 20 years. It actually takes place in Atlanta, Georgia, where the big event is. There's probably 10 to 15,000 individuals that will be in Atlanta, but there's about 1,000 satellite sites around the country, Pataskala being one of them, that will simulcast what's happening in Atlanta to our site here in Pataskala. Last year was our very first year of doing this, and the whole purpose of this is to create an opportunity for local leaders within our own community to come and have a one-day leadership development opportunity. Last year we had a great first year. We had about 80 to 85 individuals from around the community. A lot of people locally came, people from Licking Memorial Health Systems, school boards, different businesses around the community came. And it really was a great day of helping individuals excel in their leadership. So this year, and Mayor, if it's okay, if I can approach, I'm going to pass out a few flyers. I'll start over here. You guys can just take them and pass them. But this year, as you can see from the flyer, this year's theme is Powered by Purpose. And the day is structured to build and crescendo throughout the day on the whole theme of that a leader, that if you're going to be a leader, you got to be someone who has a purpose. And if you're going to lead something, why are you leading it? And that's the whole purpose of this particular year's LeaderCast. I am a state of Ohio employee. I've been with the state for 21 years. I work for, it was great to see Jason here from the county board. I spent 17 years in the county board system, and I now work for Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities. And we help individuals who are disabled to go back into the workplace. And for the last 10 years or so, I've been supervising people, and I bring my team. And last year, I told my team of 10, I said, this year, I want you to come, but I want you to bring someone with you that is emerging as a leader. And last year, I was able to bring 23 of my staff to this day. And and I'm going to bring a lot more this year too. So I'm looking forward to this. But the reason why we're here today is because we believe that in order for us to develop leaders, we want to be able to bring leadership from our community. And I'm here in front of a lot of leaders tonight. That's what you guys are. And you lead our community. And we hope that you will seriously consider coming to this. It's and if you register by Friday, it's $89. After that, it's $99. But for about 6 hours or so, we'll be together. And you can see the speaker list that's there. And I think you'll find that it is really a tremendous day and a wonderful shot in the arm to people that maybe you're bringing along too in your leadership. I want to encourage you as well that even if you can't come to LeaderCast, that maybe you know someone in the community that you know owns a business, is leading people, or maybe they desire to be a leader, that you will consider inviting them as well. On the back of your form is the actual website to register. That will take you straight to our local area website. You can go ahead and register, pay your money there. And it's Cinco de Mayo on May the 5th, okay? So it's a great day. We're going to have a Chipotle lunch. How appropriate, right? And so come and eat lunch together. And I really do think that you will come away from this truly inspired and encouraged. So I want to encourage you and welcome Mr. Powell to the council. I live in your ward. All right. So hopefully get to meet you sometime and hopefully get to see you at this thing. But again, I think this will be a great opportunity to have some local leadership. And last week I spoke to the Southwest Licking School Board. Tomorrow, Justin and I are speaking to the Pataskala Chamber, and we're going straight to the leaders of our community saying, hey, will you support this? So we're looking forward to it. Any questions that you guys have?
Anything for Bob?
tonight?
Here's some extra. Well, thank you for coming, and
Thank you, Mayor.
appreciate it very much.
All right.
Thank you. I do have to tell you that my daughter attended your church this weekend. She went with a friend, and she loved it. She came home and she said, "Mom, they had kickballs everywhere." So Whatever you're doing with God and kickballs, it worked. She loved it. So, and she said it was very different than Tri Village. She's like, but it doesn't matter because they all love God. So, thank you.
Hallelujah. All right. Thank you. All right, next up, Mr. Nate Strum from Grolikin County. Name and address, please, sir.
Sure. Nate Strum. I'm 50 West Locust Street, Newark, Ohio. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time for the invite this evening to come out and talk to you a little bit about what Grolikin County has going on, both reflectively in 2016 as well as what we're looking at in 2017. I had a presentation. Unfortunately, we couldn't get up on the screens tonight, so in your packet in front of you, everyone should have a folder. On your left-hand side is actually the slide deck that I had printed out. I apologize for the small print. I'll go through the slides a little bit more in detail now. Also, I have a PDF copies available, as well as you can share out through Kathy or with City Administrator Payne. So real quick, 2016, at a glance, what happened, what is going on. Our labor force at the year end, as a countywide, was at an all-time high at 88,000 total folks in the labor force. 84.5 were fully employed. 3,500 were unemployed or underemployed. This represented a 800 person increase in the total labor force, a total employment increase of about 1,700, and a decrease in the total unemployment or underemployed by about 900. Licking County was at 4% as a total unemployment rate. National unemployment was at 4.7. The state of Ohio was at 4.9. Now, mind you, I always caveat this. Unemployment numbers can be very deceiving. They don't usually take into account underemployed individuals or folks that have just completely removed themselves from the workforce, whether they're for stay-at-home parents or folks that are just given up on pursuing unemployment benefits or anything of that nature. On the next page, I highlight a couple things from Pataskala specifically at a glance. I pulled some of these numbers out of the Fact Finder Census Bureau opportunities. So you've seen over the last 5 years, I mean, this says 2015 as a number, but it was actually published in 2016, so it gives you some reflective opportunity there. The median household income in the city of Pataskala was just a little over $68,000, which is an increase of about $11,000 since the 2010 census. Your unemployment rate from a community standpoint is way down. You're at 4.2%, which is on par with the rest of some of our other communities here in Licking County, which is substantially farther down than the 6.4% that you were in 2010. And your total population, I know that there's some discrepancies with, again, population numbers. This is an estimate. This is a mid-census estimate of 15,120. I know there's other numbers out there that say 15,500, but for consistency's sake, since I got one source for these, I wanted to highlight those throughout. Your top industry, though, I think is something that is really interesting to me. Your predominantly largest industry, and it shouldn't surprise anyone in this room, was education services and healthcare are your big driver here in the community. About 20% of your entire population that lives in Pataskala is in those two areas. Retail trade, so I think this is the folks in those two marginal areas. So you have your 16 to probably 22 to 24 demo who are working part-time in the retail areas, or your semi-retired folks who are working in those areas. Manufacturing is number 3. It was about 11% total of your population. And then you have your professional scientific management at about 8%, and then your arts, entertainment, and recreation, and again, at about 8% of your total populace. I can share some of these raw figures with you if you'd like to show you where the numbers kind of came from, if you want to dive into it a little bit more. So continuing with a glance of what 2016 was. I came here, I want to say about this time last year, actually, and talked a lot about what our focus was. And one of the things that we kind of highlighted was we wanted to work smarter and not harder, continue to engage our local and regional partners to ensure a smooth process and transition. As you'll remember, this is my now first full year in this role. I had taken over from my predecessor, Dan Evers, in late 2015, and so we were very concerned about losing some connections, some synergies within our communities, as well as some partnerships. And build better brand awareness. And this focused not only locally here in the greater Columbus market, but also regionally. Well, what did we do? Well, one of the first things I heard here, and I think I've talked to City Administrator King and Councilman Walther about in particular, was building a database. So as anyone who may know how Grolikin County works, is when an opportunity presents itself either through our partners at Jobs Ohio, our brokerage community, or through Columbus 2020 or a similar entity, we go into our file system. And historically, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, my predecessor would tend to send everything out, let you fill it out, and send everything back. And they would process. Well, that didn't work well for me. And so I really wanted to have a comprehensive database of opportunities, sites, information from not only the communities, but your stakeholder partners. So I have information, but not only in the city of Pataskala on sites that are available in the office or industrial segments, but I also have existing letters of information from the Water and Sewer Authority. So I know exactly what their capacity kind of looks like, what their rates are, what their, and what their tap fees are. So I have that information at my fingertips. I have updated information from AEP. I have updated information from Energy Co-op. And they're community focused. So there's not just a broad brush here of where I have to go chase things. This is if something happening over at the Pataskala Corporate Park, I can pull that information probably within 15, 20 minutes tops. It's just a matter of digging into the file and getting that information. And then double checking with our community partners, make sure that information is still accurate. I'm not asking for that information. I'm saying, here's what I have on file from this date. Is this still a reasonable number to project out, or is there something better that you wish me to have out there? We did a really good boots on the ground marketing approach. So one of the things that we really have talked about when Mr. Evers was in this role, they did a lot of magazine subscription advertising, kind of going through a scattergun approach of Site Selection magazine and some other resources. And we still have some element of that to our marketing approach, but we really wanted to talk to the companies and the site selectors and the decision makers in their home turf. And this meant going to Dallas, Texas, and meeting with aerospace personnel and site selectors down in that marketplace. We supported the companies of Bionetics, UTC Aerospace, as well as Boeing, who all have local presences here in Licking County. As part of that mission, as you all know, we took Scott Fulton accompanied myself and two other members of Grow Licking County's board to Chicago to work with the International Manufacturing Technology Show. If you ask Scott, I don't know how many miles he put on his shoes, but it felt like dozens and dozens and dozens of miles through that hall through McCormick Place in downtown Chicago. But we had a chance to sit down with 24 companies and probably informally met with another couple hundred while there, as well as actually met some consultants that we've engaged with recently. But then we also went overseas. I don't know if anyone shared this with you, but I had a chance with Columbus 2020 to go to Italy and Germany to spend a week meeting with companies that have already expressed an interest in locating here and doing some direct foreign direct investment here in Licking County. That's why we were tapped to accompany them. Over the 5 days of being in those two countries, we met with about a dozen companies, and those are continuing to build relationships. We're hosting 3 of them coming in probably late this spring, early summer, to continue to have those conversations and see what that relationship kind of looks like. But it's been a bigger focus. Other thing I wanted to highlight on this slide in particular, on the lower left-hand side, this is this slide here, if you don't mind. You see a picture. It's myself, Mayor Johns from the city of Heath, and some other folks. We had a chance, and one of the things that I'm really, really interested about was workforce development. And so at this trip, beyond the company engagement, beyond the site selectors engagement, we had a chance to meet with the German American Chamber of Commerce, talk with personnel at Harper College, and really kind of engage them about their apprenticeship program, where you get real-life skills trade on the floor of companies. So companies help foot the bill on the education component. Students get on the floor of these facilities, hands-on exposure and experience, and in exchange for that, for covering some education costs, those students then sign a contract with the employer for a period of time afterwards. We're still working with COTC, our partners there at Central Ohio Technical College, and CTEC, looking at a 1+1 model through them to kind of identify how this would work here locally, making changes to obviously the way our education system stems here. But it's a really exciting time, and we continue to push forward on that type of an opportunity as well. Changing pages real quick on the big chart page, and I'll kind of go high level on this. One of the things we did from a regional standpoint, especially in the Columbus market, was do an aggressive online campaign with Columbus Business First. When we talked about who our audience was as it relates to talking about our communities and our sites and what makes us unique, we try to identify what is the best avenues to contact those business decision makers in our marketplace. Columbus Business First had a better subscription list, understanding who those decision makers were. So we did an aggressive online campaign over 6 months. You'll see in the top of this chart, for the record, the industry average is about 0.08 engagement on a click-through rate. When we were getting .04 and .07, we nearly canceled it. We went back to the drawing board and kind of identified why these things were happening. We realized we didn't have a call to action on a lot of our marketing materials. There wasn't a reason to click it. It just showed grow Licking County, simplifying success. Well, we flipped it and asked about, find out why X company is growing in Licking County. And really dropped them into a page called Why Licking County. And it's a focus on our live, work, play, and invest model. So we're outlining the communities that are here, the companies that are here, the workforce that's here, and what makes us unique, both collectively and individually. A couple other things that I heard last time I was here was talking a lot about our newsletter. There was a lot of statistics, is what I was told. A lot of graphs and numbers, and not a lot of information, especially stuff that can be parsed out to your electorate. So we really kind of brought it back down and kind of highlighted stories and things that are happening in our communities to identify momentums, moments in time, successes, some struggles. One of the bigger successes we had last year, I haven't even mentioned, was our ED 101 that was hosted here in Pataskala at COTC's campus. It won a national award through International Economic Development Council's annual conference in September, here held in Cleveland. We're thrilled to be even being considered with the other nominees for that award. So we have also focused on working locally with the Pataskala Area Chamber of Commerce. I attend their regular breakfast on the EDC. I think I've missed one in the past year or so. And actually tomorrow I'm presenting very similar content to them. So if you're going to that lunch, I apologize in advance. I swear there is some variety to the slide, but not much. So turning over to project pipeline, and I swear I got about 5 more minutes for this. Our project pipeline right now in Central Ohio is 162 projects in some varying level of review, due diligence, discussion, interest. It runs the entire gamut of projects. Our biggest sector is advanced manufacturing, which wouldn't surprise anybody who's doing anything right now in the marketplace. Distribution logistics is also a very hot market right now. IT, information systems. Automotive is always going to be a heavy one with Honda in the marketplace. And biohealth are really kind of the focus areas that are happening right now. And that's what we're seeing from a direct business engagement. One of the things that I really was interested in seeing on this slide also was the domestic versus international. Domestic accounts for about 93% of the 93 projects right now. 65 are actually foreign direct investment opportunities from companies looking to still come into the United States and invest in our marketplace. Going to these two slides here, both on growth of occupation and the median salary hourly wage, you can kind of start seeing where a lot of Licking County's growth has been in, and it parallels a lot of what we talked about on one of the earlier slides with where City of Pataskala is placed. Whether it's in the civil engineers, mechanical engineers, life sciences occupations, chemical engineering, these all fall into some of those level of professional management employments and advanced manufacturing areas. What I found was really compelling, this is on the median wage slide, was where we rank salary-wise. You're really starting to see a shift to leveling out here in a lot of our communities. Historically, we actually crossed, and I think it's highlighted in the actual annual report that you have in your folder as well. Licking County just recently crossed the $50,000 average salary for manufacturing jobs, which was a very big deal. It means the per capita income in certain sectors of our community is going up. And that means that we're doing our jobs. That means there's more money to go around to the families in those employment sectors, and we're really kind of starting to take names on a lot of these opportunities. I'll flip you to this real quick on the goals for 2017 now. I highlighted on this slide, and you have the full report in your packet. So if you want to take a look at the snapshot and have any questions for me at a later date, you're welcome to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to come back up and talk to the council as a whole or reach out and talk individually. But we really, again, and I heard it from this council, I've heard from my other communities, they love the regional approach in some of our activities and what we kind of do, but they also want a certain level of autonomy. And so late last year we had a chance, we met with a team from Research on Investment while we were in Chicago. We put it on RFP in late 2016. We had 3 solicitations back, one from Ernst & Young, one from another firm in Canada, and ROI. We interviewed everybody. We want to talk a little bit about how can we make sure that we have a better foothold. Because some of the leads that are being generated regionally and through the state, they make a lot of sense for a lot of the communities, but are we getting the full depth and breadth of what these opportunities could be for us? But before we could do that, we really needed to do an industry snapshot of identifying what makes Licking County tick as a whole, what are our strengths, where are our weaknesses, and where can we make some improvements on industry-wise. Well, if you see on this slide, and it's also highlighted in your report, distribution warehouse, it shouldn't surprise anybody, is going crazy here in Central Ohio in general. It has substantial growth rates across the board. But what really stood out to me was in the advanced materials and manufacturing sectors, we outpaced everybody about 3 to 1. And so that was an area that you see a little bit of coming out of Columbus 2020 and Jobs Ohio, but not a lot of. And then if you look at the next tier down, construction product services and business services. So construction product services, this is your Owens Corning here locally in Newark, but it's also any pipe manufacturers, rebar, other construction-based material manufacturers. They are growing nationally and having very stale growth here locally, and also business service sectors. Think of this as your back office operations, call centers, those types of uses. So we engaged ROI to find out why. What does that look like? And I'll talk a little bit about how we're addressing some of those concerns in our plan of attack for this year. First and foremost, if you haven't seen this, I'll make sure to share it out tonight to the council members. But this is our infrastructure survey. So one of the things we really wanted to highlight was take an inventory of where we are infrastructure-wise. It's a county-wide initiative, but a locally focused effort, if that makes sense. I don't know where your gaps are. You know where your gaps are better than most. The best I can do is advocate on your behalf in some certain parallels in certain rooms. And so we're doing the full survey. Right now we're up to 59 respondents, and they have a variety of projects from open space parkland trail preservation opportunities to spec greenfield, brownfield redevelopment opportunities to roads to traditional infrastructures, water, sewer, gas, electric, fiber. And that was actually one of the biggest hurdles that we saw in a lot of our business service sectors was our lack of fiber optic and broadband options, which Andy and I have actually talked about previously. Well, how do we tackle that? The goal right now is with the infrastructure survey, the benchmarking study, the infrastructure survey, what we're trying to do, and we actually have 9 proposals on my desk right now, is develop a county-wide economic development action plan. So when I first came back here and we talked a little bit about a grant that we received through AEP last year as part of their LEAP program, we were going to focus on public Wi-Fi initiatives and doing a study on actually fiber optics. Well, we started doing that, and we realized that this is a much broader issue than just those 2 areas. And so we really dug into this concept of doing a county-wide economic development action plan that focuses on workforce development initiatives at the local school levels, infrastructure, including fiber optics, broadband, Wi-Fi integrations, but also water, sewer, electric, gas, and then also transportation, and get that low-hanging fruit that can happen locally, whether it's developing a TOD, transit-oriented development opportunity, so that when transit comes, and it's going to come on some level, on some fashion, our sites and our developments are ready for those kind of work. Like I said, I have 9 proposals on my desk right now. We're doing our review. I'm not sure if the mayor's had a chance. I've been in the weeds pretty deep with a lot of the proposals, and they're very thorough. And there are a lot of good local and regional firms that are interested in helping Licking County grow. One of the things I really focused, though, on our RFP and our engagement with this was making sure that we had robust stakeholder meetings at the community level. Again, I can't say what you need. I need you to tell me what best fits your community profiles. At the end of the day, what I really, really like to have as an end product is a comprehensive action plan for economic development growth here in Licking County that I could then hand to the communities and say, these are areas that are relevant to the city of Pataskala. It's about 25% completed of what you could use as an economic development action plan yourself. You can either run with it and extrapolate or use our model. But we're giving you a baseline to operate from to help you grow and target different corridors and areas to help you grow how you see fit that you need to be growing in. And then finally, strengthening our local business community. We've been really trying to highlight a lot of business retention and expansion opportunities for our existing employers, finding out what their needs are, especially those that fit the demographic that we're trying to explore. Business services, construction services, advanced materials in particular. Highlighting our education, financial, and workforce development resources for them. A lot of them do not know the level of engagement you can get from Ohio Means Jobs, Licking County, CTEC and their certification programs, COTC, and some of this access to the students. And one of the biggest initiatives, and I highlighted this here, it doesn't necessarily directly impact Licking County, though it may impact directly City of Pataskala. The Smart Columbus initiative's happening right now in Franklin County. Actually, it's Franklin County in the 33 corridor, going up into Marysville and near the Honda facility. What it's really doing is developing and targeting smart city initiatives and technologies, updating electrification for the grid, which will actually be triggered from a lot of work that's happening here at the JRS area. In terms of the leaping off point for AEP in those regards, the process was a $40 million competitive grant that the City of Columbus received. The total pool is now up to about $350 million. It was about 190 initially, so you can see the additional investment coming in, especially from Ohio State and other universities in the region. But what they're being able to do is taking it on the micro level and then expanding the technologies that are being developed here to the macro and kind of sharing it out. And we had a chance to go to Europe and kind of talk to some of the tech companies who are interested in entering our market about this. You saw a lot of this technology, smart street lamps, street signals that are Wi-Fi enabled to your car. These are autonomous motor vehicles. These are all electric fleets. These type of work, I think, will turn Columbus and the Columbus region as a whole into really the test lab for a lot of these technologies long term. So I want to make sure that not only are the companies that are located here being able to tap into this as a resource, but also that as these technologies grow, they're coming into our communities. We gotta forget the line for a second between Franklin and Licking, especially in our western areas, and make sure that we are receiving the overall benefit of these advancements locally and regionally. So with that, I would open up to any questions. Again, I apologize for how hurried I went through this presentation, but I have everything's in your folders, and I'd be more than happy to review any of that with you, both as a group or individually.
Any questions for Nate? Andy?
Yeah, I do. Nate, thank you very much. Appreciate you touching on a couple of the items we talked about a year ago. As far as the library goes, I know you're talking about some of the JRS or the corporate park. Any other sites in Pataskala that you're amassing this information for? The open space that we've got,
Sure.
Open developable space.
We have a number of different sites, both along the Main Street corridor, going from Refugee up through Broad and beyond. I also have been working with Connie Klima and her property that she represents on behalf of the Emsweilers across the street from the JRS. I don't know. It's listed right now, I think, as 11915 Mill Street, but it's about 112 acres. It's actually right now the second largest contiguous landmass that's technically rail served. I guess there's an existing rail conversation to tie into it.
Right.
So we have about a half dozen or more, and it's growing as other properties are coming online from the brokerage community in particular. I'm amassing that resource either off of Xceligent or Zoom Prospector or LoopNet or whatever the resource may be.
That was going to be my question. Who are you speaking with? You know, obviously the realtors, the brokers, they're all representing people that have listed, but properties that aren't listed or that are still large farm tracts. Who are you reaching out to those people to see if they're interested? Not that you're selling the ground,
No,
but that you're able to get that information to get put together.
and that was one of the things that's been a challenge for me is trying to play that balance between it, because I don't want to prohibit or make farmers, because agriculture is the bedbone of our economy here. Let's be perfectly honest here. It's something that's not going away, and it doesn't. We got to eat, so we need a strong agricultural base. So I've been working with our, maybe not necessarily the individual landowners, but working with the utility providers in those corridors and those areas to understand what some of the capacities are. So at least when those properties do become available and online, it's really a plug and play on that level of information.
Okay, great, thanks.
Todd?
Hi, Mr. Strum, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How many jobs did Grow-Licking County, can you say Grow-Licking County created in the county, say in 2016, or that started in 2016 or popped into 2017?
Sure. So that number actually is, if you go to this page here, last year we had 300 total jobs created in Licking County. 200 retained in Licking County. We've enabled about $20 million of investment or so.
How many jobs did you say?
300.
300. And how many? Follow-up question: how many were in Pataskala in the same time period, if you know?
I would have to double check what the
Okay.
number was that was committed by AEP at the JRS site.
Well, I'm not talking about committed. I'm talking about actually people who are driving a forklift in a warehouse or whatever they're doing.
Well, the way
Not commitments.
Well, then I'm not aware of any jobs created in the city of Pataskala.
Okay, and the same constriction on the countywide jobs.
Well, I believe 2 of those are, we didn't count any jobs associated with one of the expansions that are highlighted in this book.
Well, I'm not talking about some company coming here and saying, "Hey, we're going to."
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to say that between one of the expansions down in Etna Township that was announced in February and a new company that was coming into Johnstown, I would argue that the probably 250 and 200 are probably a fair number
Okay.
in both those areas.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Hicken?
I missed it. You probably made it clear, but I just when you were talking about hosting the overseas, that you were talking about the students. That did you say how many COTC or CTEC kids had taken advantage of that?
We're still working on that model. So
Okay.
we continue to collaborate with CTEC and COTC to figure out, and also our private business community, because I mean, if you're going to go to the private business community and ask them to underwrite education costs, we have to understand what those limits are. I mean, they're not going to write a blank check into a program. What we learned from our conversations with the German American Chamber of Commerce was that you look on that level, we really look at cohorts of between 15 and 20 on that initial stage, and it ramps up from there. One thing I will say that I'm really excited about also, Project Prepare. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Project Prepare and what that's done. It was a chamber initiative starting about 3 years ago where one school district and one manufacturer would partner up and take students through their programming, talk about what CTEC and COTC could have available to them, and then get them to see what a modern manufacturing facility would be. That's expanded to 6 high schools now, and also out of the chamber. So that's actually managed now by CTEC. Wendy Murphy left OMJ Licking County in her capacity as a business relationship manager to manage and operate that program.
Are those 6 in Licking County?
Yes. And growing.
And I hate to keep pressing that, but I'm kind of interested in that. When that happens, do the companies pay into a fund to subsidize the education, or do you simply hook up an internship possibility with a?
So for the apprenticeship program is what you're talking
Yes.
about? The model that exists today is that the companies pay into a fund to then, but they also hire the student. That is the model that's currently happening where we travel to in Illinois. The model that we're working with at CTEC and COTC focuses on corporate partnerships where there is a broad number of students. There's actually would be potentially 2 parallel tracks, one of students that have been selected by companies that gain employment immediately after the program, and one that would just enter into the workforce upon completion of a similar type program. So if one student drops out of here, they can take one student on a parallel path and put them right back into this program. So there's always a baseline cohort going through this model with corporate sponsorship sided to it. Again, we're still vetting this out. It's very much in its infancy. We hope to have something laid out through Licking County, CTEC, and COTC later this year. One thing I forgot to highlight, and I apologize, we've also developed a CTEC-based scholarship fund. So we've actually worked with our partners at Southgate and Port Authority. Licking County administers the MIST scholarship now. And so we highlight welding, CNC, multi-craft maintenance opportunities for students going to CTEC, and cover up to $5,000 of their eligible academic expenses through that. So
Will this be the first year awarded that?
yes, we've already had 6 applications.
You talked about the companies. You were excited about Licking County hosting several companies from overseas. Is that companies that are specifically looking at properties within our city, or just within the first? First, my question would be within the county, and then within the city.
Both.
Okay. That's all for me for now. Thank you. I might ask you some more questions.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I got a couple more real quick questions.
Hang
Who?
on just a second. Let's go. You already spoke first. Let's just make sure Suzanne and Michael. Okay, go ahead, Andy. Okay. Sorry about that.
So a couple other questions regarding, you presented what you guys are doing, Grow Licking County is doing. I'm kind of interested in, as far as what you're seeing the city of Pataskala doing to aid Grow Licking County. So, for instance, who's your contact here most of the time? 90% of the time. Who do you talk to?
I speak to BJ.
Okay, and so the materials that we have available for you to utilize when you are getting an inquiry from whomever, it's Columbus 2020 or whatever, do you see any deficiencies in that material? Now that you're looking at our neighbors / competitors, what they have compared to what we have, are you guys discussing that? Are we looking at what we need to do to aid you in getting some of these companies, these foreign companies or domestic companies, to come to Licking County or to specifically come to Pataskala?
We tackle that in two ways.
Go ahead.
First and foremost, I think one of the best things that have happened between my agency and your city has been the open communication I've been able to have with BJ and Scott. I mean, if either one of them is not available, I'm able to reach out to the other pretty seamlessly and get fairly timely responses, especially when a lot of these things tend to be highly critical in timing. I can try to prevent a fire drill as much as I can on my side of the equation, but occasionally it does happen. And so from an efficiency standpoint, from an information efficiency standpoint, there's no deficiencies in that regard. It is what it is, and they're very receptive. From the actual workup itself, I think one of the issues that continues, and will continue to have a conversation about long term, is actually on tonight's agenda, is figuring out how everybody can kind of coexist in the sandbox between the school districts and the city, understanding what the rules of engagement are as it relates to incentives. I mean, there's a really interesting article actually right now, a couple of different articles that are talking about incentives and the role of incentives in economic development. I think I've come up to this council before and I've said there's other really great tools than just straight abatements, but until companies can stop drinking that Kool-Aid, we need to be more creative and think outside the box with a lot of those things. But we don't have a strict line of rules of engagement in some of our more highly enticing areas for development right now.
King, did you have a comment?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
Andy, anything else?
One other quick question. You talked about this Project Prepare. When I was a kid, they had Engineer for a Day. I assume it's somewhat the same issue. What, with some of our corporations in Licking County, how do you work with those companies, and specifically towards Licking Heights and Southwest Licking, to promote the engineering sciences? What do you feel that Grow Licking County is? What's their role?
Well, my role, me personally, Andy, is I volunteer for STEMFest, and I kind of working with. I actually was talking to Tim earlier that I was part of the Career Express for the last 3 days, talking with students about not only careers in those areas. I had about 100+ kids come through my sessions, talking about the downfall of social media and trying to clean up their act a little bit before they start applying for these types of jobs and in those environments. What really helps us is that we serve as a facilitator to be able to work in all these different segments of economic development, which workforce is one of those areas. I'm able to pull in resources from the education side as well as the private side to identify where the gaps are. One of the reasons why private businesses love investing and doing stuff with Project Prepare is that they see the payoff. They see those students come through when you're a sophomore, a junior, or a senior, whenever they get through, and then they see them going into CTEC or COTC and then start working in their facilities. That's why they open up their doors and allow these tours and really get into the meat and potatoes of other operations. The biggest challenge that we have actually isn't really the students. It's talking to the parents and educating the parents as to what these careers kind of look like, that these aren't these 1930s, 1940s images of what a manufacturing or a dirty manufacturer is anymore. This is really advanced technologies. This is 3D printing. This is additive manufacturing. They're really creative, computer-based, technology-based opportunities. And so once you can break through that barrier, our next barrier is actually working with guidance counselors to make sure we're talking to the right students. Rather than just grabbing everybody into a room, we're actually targeting students that actually want to go in these trades, or maybe they don't know what they want to do. So that's kind of where I've been my role in a lot of these conversations have been is kind of working as that bridge gap between those two areas.
One of the biggest issues, and we talked about this before, is having the workforce available for these communities or for these companies. And Scott, I think we've talked about this a couple times in a few council sessions from your Chicago trip. And I'm still interested to hear how we're progressing. And I know you've touched on it a little bit with CTEC, but is there some other opportunity if CTEC is not the right avenue to explore for those internships for the higher level science and engineering sides? Where do you see that going? Do you see that going to, say, OU of Granville, or where do you see what other
Well, I
opportunities?
think from a regional perspective, I think that's why you're starting to see some of those opportunities fall into. I think Ohio University just recently expanded their Dublin campus. Actually.
They did,
and so that's one of those targeted areas. OSU Newark has really kind of expanded their operations. We're actually having a joint luncheon with some manufacturers and those members later this month to kind of talk about the needs from an education and curriculum standpoint. Denison's a really great tool to have here locally, but again, they're liberal arts, so they're not really digging into that engineering side of it. COTC, I think it's highlighted actually in this, in the annual report, so bear with me one second. Yeah, Pataskala exceeded its goal for enrollment by 374%. And so I think one of the avenues that we're really starting to focus in on here and talk about when it comes to that skills trade gap standpoint is it's not necessarily the traditional 4-year degree. It's a 2-year floor experience, and then they elevate beyond. Getting the engineering sciences from COTC as being one of those avenues. And I think they're starting to understand that. You see some of their growth rate from an enrollment standpoint, both on main campus here in Pataskala as well as their facilities in Knox and Coshocton. They're going to continue to grow, and I think they're going to be a strategic partner, especially for Pataskala, long-term to invest in some of their opportunities, whether it's co-sharing campus space or what have you. I mean, I think there's a really interesting, and they've already co-shared. They've done it once, so they know the model and how it works. So if there's a way to expand an Ohio State engineering into Pataskala, into sharing some space here in the city, I think that's a really fantastic model and something that could be explored.
Do you think Grow Lake County facilitates that? Is that your role to facilitate that?
There's going to be a handoff at some point. I think there's someone needs to carry the torch initially, and then it has to be a handoff.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Anything else for Nate? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Any other citizens' comments tonight? Okay, seeing none, introduction, discussion, and approval of consent agenda matters.
So moved.
So, motion by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion and roll.
Powell,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda passes. On to reports. Okay, let's see here. I've got 2 quick things here. Well, one of them's, we in some of our discussions had figured out that, and thanks to donations over the years, we've been able to fund and buy our canine dogs with donations from the residents and folks in the city. And it became aware to me and to others that we did not have a line item for canine. We were pretty much running on donation dollars to feed and make sure the vets and the vests and the cages and all that kind of stuff, the training was taken care of. So I sat down with Bruce and BJ and Jamie Nicholson with Mr. Zetz. He called in, was on the phone as we had this meeting. Tanya was there. Who else was there? Kip. Our magistrate was also there. I wanted to get their input on this to see if it was something we could do. And we have proposed, with everybody in agreement, of course, it's going to come to council as a resolution, possibly next meeting. Correct. That we should, that we could, if possible, take a certain amount and we've thrown out $1 from all of our traffic cases. We wouldn't be increasing our fees. We would just, for instance, if it was a $50 speeding ticket, 49 would go into the general fund, or wherever it goes as far as what we use that for. But $1 would be put into a fund that Jamie would set up in conjunction with our auditors and making sure everything was all right. $1 per case would go into the fund for to supplement our canines with vests and equipment, vet bills, and possibly as the fund grows, it would also, when we would, heaven forbid, need another dog. What's our normal is 6, 7 years, 8, 9 years?
Depending on the specific animal, it's about 6 to 9 years.
Luckily, Mutant and Joker are fairly young and new. I know Junior's is retiring soon. Morton's dog is retiring soon. And we'll maintain the 2, correct? Right. Okay. So this would be help to build up in the future so that, and of course, donations are fabulous, and the residents do love our canines and step up to the plate pretty readily. But depending on that, I don't think is a wise decision. So I think in the years to come, that would build up so that if we ever needed to purchase another dog, when that time came, that money would be there. So throwing that out there tonight, like I said, everybody that I mentioned that was at the meeting was on board with it. I think we're doing some finalization on whether it's actually going to be $1 or not.
That'll all be in the legislation when it's when it's presented at the next
look for
meeting.
that in your next packet, and if you have any questions now for Brian, was there anything I missed there? Or?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Any comments, BJ? Or
Nope. You covered it.
Any comment? Yes, sir.
Is there anything precluding us from making this a budget line item? I mean, instead of having this fund, could it not come from a budget line item?
It certainly
when
could
necessary.
It could certainly be the police fund could certainly we could set up a fund and divert income tax dollars into that. This was just trying to help offset some of it.
Since we use the dogs, primarily it's for the police department and traffic stops and drug and stuff. So I thought this might be the easiest way to start to build a fund without going that route. But
I just wondered.
Good idea.
Well, how many cases? So this would be from all the cases that come into mayor's court.
Yes, sir.
How many cases come in every year?
I think Tanya mentioned. Did I want to say 400 or 500, or was it?
No,
less
it's more than that.
I'm sorry.
It's for every ticket.
Oh, okay.
It'd be for every ticket paid and cases coming in. So it wasn't, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but it would be for every ticket paid, there'd be $1 taken off it. Similar to the Mayor's Court Computer Fund. It's very similar to that.
I'll get you that number.
Yeah,
but I know there's
I think it was
cases
about
versus
1,200.
traffic tickets, so we'll get you the numbers.
Well, that's what I mean. How many? If it's per? I mean, to me, it's either ticket or complaint, one of the two. So
that's why we were still working on that, because if at 50 cents it would never build. So let's say the number was a certain number, and $1 or $2, $4 or $5, we didn't want it to build that. We're trying to find just the right amount.
Yeah, I was just curious as to how much money it's going to generate every year. How much?
Yeah,
what's the?
Tanya is working on that information for us.
Versus what the dogs. I mean, what
percentage?
What are we expect? Because to Mr. Walther's point, what are we expect? I mean, what is the expense that we're looking at, and then how much does a new dog cost? And is this? Are we going to tilt at windmills, or should we just figure out how much it's costing? It's an absolutely worthy expense, and it's necessary. We're.
And again, I was just.
I don't know. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying because the other issue we'd want to have is say, well, we have this fund, but now we're gonna have to line item it anyway because we're not generating enough $1 per $2 per case number or whatever
So that's why we're looking at the
Okay.
number of cases versus whether it's going to be, X amount of dollars. So
Okay, all right.
That'll
Okay,
be
I'll
in
just-
your.
it's
that'll be in your packet.
okay. It's just I'm just interested to see where the numbers will come out.
Sure.
Okay,
What's our? What? I know we got a deal last time because we bought 2 dogs at once and got a heck of a deal. But what is the normal price of a dog?
Around 7,000 to 8,000.
Okay, so I'll have to build that, and Tanya's got to. So we'll work on that. So see something in your packet for the next meeting on that. Yes, sir.
The only other question I would ask is, I think you mentioned this, is you're not just talking about dumping money on a fund that eventually we're going to buy a dog for. This is also for veterinary costs for the dog.
It's for the
or
entire canine program.
If for instance, they had to, they were going to be in broken glass, you had to buy shoes for their feet, they were doing that kind of, okay.
Vests, cages to put in the back of the car. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll fund the whole thing. Plus, start to put something
I'll be
away for a
interested
rainy
with
day
concept.
for a new dog. That was the basis for it. So.
Yeah, I'd like to see what what we're going to be, what the dollar, I'll just call it the dollar for now, is going to be
generating,
and then what is the expense that it's supposed to be, either if it's going to pay for it all, or if it's just going to be a defray, so we can budget. I mean, it's not a tremendous amount of money, but we can budget it.
I mean, it may come out that it's $2, and to get a firm fund to fund it so that you're not dipping into something else.
Well, it'd be great if the fee could be sufficient that it would pay for the program.
Right.
That'd be, and we wouldn't have to take income tax to pay for the program. That'd be a great way to do it.
Sure. We're working on that.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you. I met with the young lady today up at the Crime Prevention Convention up in Dublin today. And I showed everybody this book, and it's already been updated. This is the book that the Drug Task Force is going to distribute to all the students that join the Drug-Free Club in the fall at Watkins. And this company gives these magazines, and they're full of, you just won't believe there's just stuff in here that I have never heard of, that obviously there's a lot of advances in in the drugs and how kids are using them and adults are using them and stuff. But this book will be free to all the students. It will be an unlimited number that we're going to get. It's kind of like, it works on the same principle as when we did our map. A representative from the company will come here and get a list of Chamber of Commerce folks and start asking them for donations, and this book will be full of ads from local companies, and we'll get the book for free. So very excited about that. I know Bruce is too. And I'll save our speed trailer info for when you speak, and also the update on how we did on St. Patrick's Day. I'll save that for you. Mr. Hicken.
The only thing I have is just a reminder about performance evaluations. I sent those out. We kind of set a deadline. We set a deadline for the first meeting in April, and then the performance review committee would get back together, get all the grades together, and then begin to set up how we're going to sit down with the administration that were being reviewed and have their evaluations. So just a reminder that I have one back. Mr. Barstow wins the award. He got all 3 back to me, so he was first.
That'll be a Subway coupon then, right?
And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
For now.
Mr. Zetz.
I have nothing.
Okay, Mr. King.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple items. In my report, I provided to council an update on how we are doing with completing or commencing with our 2017 capital improvements projects that were approved as part of the budget. I'm pleased to inform council that several of them are completed. Most of them have started, and those that have not are weather dependent. So in the first quarter of 2017, we've done a heck of a job in getting the CIPs completed. I am appreciative of the continued conservative spending approach that we take with these, and always looking ways to save money and accomplish what we need. Also provided the updated police station schedule to council. I'm hopeful to be able to expect expedite the schedule. Still some more. We keep crunching it and trying to get it shorter and shorter, keep pushing to get it done. We're also working to finalize the cost estimate on it, which will lead us to issuance of the debt for it. And I anticipate that occurring within the next 30 days. The last thing I wanted to mention is in my report, I provided to council again both a draft marijuana ordinances that were provided last time. As Brian has explained to council, the first of the three, as I'm calling them, arms of this, the three arms being the dispensaries, the processing, and the cultivation. Cultivation rules take effect May 6th. That would give us, if we wanted to do something as it relates to cultivation, whether it's prohibition, whether it's regulations, doing something April 3rd and waiving the readings, it would be in place by May 6th. I also outlined a couple different approaches council can take. As we know, we could just prohibit everything outright, work backwards from there if we wanted to start permitting. The rules for the processing and the dispensaries are not out yet. All we know are the cultivation. We could do nothing and have no regulations, no prohibitions at all, or we could pick and choose a la carte which ones we wanted to go ahead and regulate and permit or prohibit. Looking at this, knowing that May 6th is coming, I would like us to take some action at the April 3rd meeting, if not on all three, as it relates to cultivation. And Brian, please correct me if I'm wrong, that we can do that, knowing that there's only one of them that is coming due with the rules taking effect May 6th.
Yes, you can. In fact, there's some updated on the rules. In fact, I just checked this last week on the cultivation facilities. Remember, I said there were level 1 and level 2 facilities. Remember, there was that phrase in there that talked about I forget what it was, like in certain territories or something. That language actually has been dropped. So it looks like there's going to be 24 facilities in the state, wherever they're going to be. There's also talk, though it's not in the draft. The rules are like what they call in CSI, which is Common Sense Initiative. It's like the last phase of the rule before they actually get logged with JCAR and passed. There's information out there that says that, remember, there was a one-time expansion starting in September of 2018 that was going to allow 25,000 square foot facilities to go to 50,000. The idea now is that could bump up to as much as 75,000 square feet, and then 9,000 for a level 1 instead of going from 3,000 to 6,000, but going 3,000 to 9,000 square feet. And that idea of what it really means truly is the facility which it'll be grown. If there's storage or other things associated with the grow, that is not included in the 25,000 or 3,000 square feet. Like I said, I just looked at the updated rules last week, so for your information.
Keeps changing all the time.
Yes. Well, it certainly is changing. I appreciate the clarification of the cultivation that is coming due with that. So, as I put in my report, my opinion right now is, and I'm not saying that this is where I stand on the issue as a whole, but certainly with the prohibition, we have the ability then to craft what we want moving forward. There's a slight risk that we run with doing that. If we do a prohibition and May 7th, say, somebody comes to the city and says, hey, I want to open up a cultivation facility, well, at that time it would be prohibited here in the city. Slight risk, I think. Very, very minor. So happy to entertain any discussion on this item and continue the discussion.
Tim, go ahead. I guess my first question is, and I don't believe I'm going to be here at that meeting. It looks like if we don't have at least a baseline, what's the right word, prohibition in place, that technically somebody could, although I think it's probably a far-fetched idea, in that little window, if we waited, right, if we waited for the next meeting or something like that, or we as a board, as a council, continue to discuss it back and forth, there are no regulations and multiple people could announce their intent, and we would lose our ability to regulate what we want in our communities.
During that window until we took action on the 20th.
If we do not take action at the next meeting.
Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, I mean that's my biggest fear, in that the rules will take effect May 6th. Now, arguably someone would have to probably apply to the state when they get that license, but I would worry that if you want something in place and you don't have it, then someone technically could have an application in hand and they could, I would argue that they say, well, I have an intent to do it. You can't then prohibit me after I have the ability to do it at the state level. That would just be my concern.
And I mean, I just speaking personally, I think my feeling would be we can always ramp it back if once we get into discussions about. And I also am not making a comment one way or the other as to whether or not I'm for that. I'd have to see what we decided. Are there permitting fees associated with it? A means for the city to get money if we decided to go that route, but at least making sure that my feeling would be making sure that we're covered is. And I realize I'm kind of saying that, and I won't be here, but that's my initial feeling on it. So I don't know.
So Brian, the better way would be to, I mean, if we do nothing, Dr. Gupta could, who was the investor on the previous proposal, could come and make his application and start.
Yeah, I mean, I would.
That's why he bought the farm that he bought.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not saying he would. I don't know anything. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be my concern is that he wouldn't have a license issued by the state on May 7th, but arguably he could be in the process of getting that done because the rules would be in place. And, do you want to get into a big long court battle as to,
right.
Does he have the ability to do it because the state rules are all there? Or does he actually need the license in hand and walk up and show you the license that he's got from the state? That's the uncertainty there that you could avoid if that's what you wanted to do. So,
and then we could always, in walking let's say we did a flat prohibition on everything and walking it back. Would that be analogous to the zoning process where we allow, and I'm not using the right terms because I'm not a zoning guru, but a use that's not conforming, or would it be similar to that?
Well, it would be, it would actually be a permitted, well, I guess it depends what we want to do. Would it be a permitted use or a conditional use?
Okay.
So, if conditional use, then you get a little more checks and, I'll call them checks and balances, but more process in there where they'd have to actually come and actually get permission because to be a conditional use.
Well, and it's a public process at that point, too.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
If it turned into that, then there would be a little more vetting with the city.
We would have more control over it if we prohibited it. And then if a company came and we liked their program and we felt that it was, then we could potentially permit that, allow that proposal, the business proposal to go forward.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, you would be then allowing, again, not for that specific, but for everybody. I mean, it'd be no different than, or if you switched over to like retail dispensary, by the way, the hours of operations went from 7 to 7 to 7 to 9 p.m. and home delivery is still out. That's very clear in the last rendition of the rules. Home delivery out.
By drone.
Though you can get beer through Amazon, but marijuana out. Anyway, it would be no different than saying, okay, well, we prohibit storage facilities, and you get a big proposal that somehow you like storage facilities. You're going to somehow change the code. Now you'd be allowing storage facilities or retail dispensary in all areas of the zoning code, but you then, you could turn around and change it to do what you wanted to do.
A quick question. I know reading through your stuff, BJ, you've got two different, drafts of prohibiting. One that I would ask in the M1 district, I wonder, Scott, have you looked at these uses, these facilities, and would these uses conform to what is typically allowed in the M1 district? It would. Okay. Not necessarily. I'm not asking about dispensaries necessarily. I'm asking about the cultivation and processing.
Yeah, and that was the thought that would go along, because, and again, I don't know a lot about how this works. You would think of a large warehouse-type building that these things would take place in, which would conform to M1-type uses.
And in those, would this be then, could we make that a conditional use in an M1 district for cultivation and processing?
Yes.
Okay. And then the only other question I had for you was, when do you expect to see the rules for the dispensary and the processing? I mean, obviously, we see cultivation, sort of. We don't have them quite yet, but we have at least what we think is going to be the public rules. When do you think you'll see the other ones?
It's probably September 8th is the deadline, and I think over the course of the summer they're going to keep tracking because they have to go through these multiple stages of public comments and things. So I think you'll have some time. It has to be done by September 8th. maybe done a little sooner if they can get the it's moving along. I mean, it's gone through the initial, all the rules have gone through the initial stage of public comment.
And
That's how you got back to operation hours now being changed.
Just to qualify, you said there's 25 initial sites throughout the state of Ohio.
24, yeah, 12.
24 total.
12, yes.
And those are for the cultivation.
Correct.
BJ, real quick, I know I had made a statement the last time I was here talking about this, at least, that I had remembered the schools, Licking Heights specifically, kind of changing their thoughts on Dr. Kempta. Gupta. Yes, got it. Did you? I can't remember if you and I talked about this or not.
We did.
Did you have a chance to talk with Licking Heights at all?
I know that it was presented, let me take this a couple ways. It was presented to the Drug Free Club. That is in place now in both schools. What was relayed to me is that they were not in favor of it.
The Drug Free Club or Licking Heights?
Drug Free Club. Since that is in the schools, I'm going a couple layers here.
Which one you were saying.
With Licking Heights, certainly I don't want to speak directly for them, but they certainly see the downside to medical marijuana, and they weren't strong one way or another. To be honest with you.
Okay, I had taken it as they were as soon as they had seen that there were some dollars available, and that they were not so much against it. This was
and I don't
2 years ago, and I didn't know if that had changed when you talked with them.
I don't want to speak for
No
the
problem.
schools.
Michael?
By allowing the cultivation or any form of this in our city, do we open ourselves up to potential legal challenges?
By allowing the cultivation? No. Because we'd be able to craft it in a way that our code then would have authority over it.
Okay.
And if we prohibit it, either. I guess, if we're talking this way, if we prohibit, the bill as it's written allows us to do that as well. So I don't think, if we did that, I don't see legal challenges that way.
I guess my thought was just because federally it's still a Schedule I narcotic, and I don't know if we could be. I'm very novice when it comes to law, but I don't know if that would affect it in any way.
And I'm not. We're talking law. I'm out.
A little above novice, but not a whole lot. That's the whole. That's the issue, and that's the struggle with the whole thing. And is the new administration going to come down on that? It's hard to say. It is a very cash-intensive business, though. While I was looking at all this stuff last week, I read an article. In 2016, nationwide is a $5.4 billion with a B dollar industry. I think that's going to be hard to, put that toothpaste back in the tube at this point. It just practically speaking, or however you come out on the issue. But that still remains an issue in the funding, or whether the banking is a huge implication still too. These are hugely cash businesses where, the folks out in Colorado come to pay their property taxes literally with like suitcases full of cash because they can't write checks so they walk into the auditor's office with duffel bags full of hundreds, but it is what it is.
Mr. Barstow?
Well, yeah, they can't write checks because the banking industry, because of the federal laws that prohibit this, is very wary about getting involved in this and doing it across state lines. So there's some even if the DEA ATF decides not to go out and kick down doors at the dispensaries, there's still a lot of impediments, practical impediments to these folks operating. But Brian, have you heard of what sort of interest there is in Ohio in investing? Have you heard any buzz about what are we really talking about here? Is this
I
proposals?
think there are people looking. You hear stories about Wilmington is looking at huge facilities down there. Johnstown. So there are. It's there's going to be. It's going to take shape. There will be people applying to be cultivators as soon as they can. They realize it's here and there's money to be made, and they'll figure out how to fund it. So those areas that you're starting to hear about, they're going to allow it.
And they're also following the Colorado model.
Right. Yes.
That's what you're reading is they're going to follow the Colorado model.
Yep.
So one kind of quick question. Scott, do you know of any other, in our zoning code, any other zoning districts that the cultivator would fall within the parameters of a permitted use or a conditional use?
We looked at this, and M1 is probably the best. The other one would be the plain manufacturing, but that's the corporate park. So we were looking just for the M1 use. General business then encompasses more traditional commercial uses like a restaurant or a gas station. So
It'd be more of a dispensary type of thing.
Yeah, we kind of isolated it to the M1 district for potential consideration.
I guess I have a quick question, and that's, let's say I happen to be an individual that has purchased land and it's in agricultural. Would that require me to then get a zoning change if I wanted to put that business there?
Yes.
Anything else for Mr. Zetz or BJ on the marijuana topic? Final comments?
I'm just curious as to what the I know it doesn't get CAUV, but what are some of the other tax benefits or tax structure that this type of operation, say the cultivation operation, is going? I mean, do we have any feel for what that is? I mean, could they go into the corporate park? I mean, what would prevent them from going into the corporate park?
With going to, what would prevent them from going to the corporate park is whether or not it's added as a conditional use to the corporate park. As far as tax benefits, I have no idea. I don't know what improved valuation on property for one of these things would be. I've got to assume it's going to be pretty high. There would be income tax, obviously, being paid. You know, when you start looking at processing and cultivation facilities, they're probably going to employ more people than a dispensary, I would think. So there's certainly going to be income tax implications for it. Property tax, I have no idea.
Right. Well, that's hard. But any idea? Maybe Brian knows this about what sort of payroll we're looking at. Say if we got one of the cultivation sites. I mean, what has any? Have you heard anything?
I have not. I'll look and see if I can find anything. I have not.
Okay.
I know what the dispensary is talking about. I mean, the income tax or the payroll tax on that. I know there has to now be two. If you have a dispensary, there has to be two people working at all times at the location.
But
I mean, that's not going to. But that's just.
That's
all they have to require.
Right, but I would think the dispensary would be sort of I envision sort of a mom and pop type.
With extreme security.
I know, but I mean in terms of income generation, more along the lines of a like an ice cream store or something like that. That it wouldn't
Pharmacy, like
a pharmacy.
That's what they would look like as a pharmacy.
It's not going to have a huge payroll or
that's what my point is. Yeah, you're just going to have a very small payroll.
A tremendously highly skilled payroll. I would think the cultivation processing would be where you'd have a higher income.
That's
folks.
true.
Okay, and maybe more folks. Okay, all right. Well, thanks. That's interesting.
Anything else, folks? Anything else on your report?
Just one last thing I wanted to mention. Housekeeping, the spring citywide litter cleanup has been scheduled for April 22nd through April 30th, and Jessica Cumbo will be managing that once again, and it will be advertised in all the places where we advertised. And I have nothing further, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Anything for BJ? All right. And Mr. Nicholson's on vacation. Are you covering anything for him tonight?
I am not. The only other thing I'm covering is the development committee update when we get there.
Very good. Mr. Coy.
One thing I have is construction for River Forest should start the second week of April. We've confirmed parts delivery, and I think they're going to start moving dirt that week, like the week of the 10th, I think, or whatever week Good Friday is, because they were worried about us working Friday, but that's a day that we normally work. Whatever that week is, that's when we're starting. So that's all I have. Unless you have any questions of me.
Anything for Nate?
Answer.
Thank you, sir. Alan?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing I wanted to add to my report that I failed to include in that, and that is a line item for Oak Meadow Drive. And one thing with that is the survey work, field survey work is complete, and that's going into design here shortly. Aside from that, happy to answer any questions.
Anything for Alan? Very good. Chief? Oh, I'm sorry, Scott.
One thing I wanted to add to my report is Mr. Zetz came to our BZA meeting on the 14th, and did an orientation for some of the new members and kind of a refresher for some of the existing members. Went through some procedural issues. The feedback we got from the board is that it was very helpful. I know it was helpful for the planning and zoning department, and we've kind of tweaked some of our processes to mirror what Mr. Zetz spoke about. Aside from that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'd also heard that was very successful. Is that the first time we've done that in a while, or is that just for new folks, or how do we do that?
Since I've been here, we had, I think we have 4 of the 5 are new. So we hadn't done it since I've been here since October of 14. So we thought with the new folks coming in, and we could get a refresher and just make sure that, we're doing everything we need to do and make sure I's are dotted, T's are crossed. So it was very helpful.
It's been many years since we've done that, and I've never done it with Brian as law director.
Is that something we should implement as like maybe every 2 years or every year and a half or something like that?
I think it couldn't hurt.
Sure. Very good. Anything for Scott? Anything else, Scott? I'm
Yes.
sorry. Okay. Thank you. Anything for Scott? All right, Chief.
I have one. Out of the development committee, Scott, the next steps for the comprehensive plan, putting together the committee. What were the next steps on that? Where were we going with that?
Go ahead. If I can do it.
Or a recommendation, I guess.
Yeah, what we talked about is we are aiming for the first meeting in April to have that outline presented to council for steps forward for the comprehensive plan.
Okay, so that's coming along.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Very good. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. We have our new speed trailer update up, and it's out and in use.
Thank you.
Our first location was on Havens Corners at the county line.
Thanks, Mayor.
I'm actually surprised to say that it's nice. It actually counts vehicles. And in a week's time, we had 20,466 vehicles come into Pataskala on Havens Corners. And it's nice. I mean, we're happy to share it with Alan if you ever needed to do a traffic study or anything like that. You could definitely put it to use. I don't know if you've seen the data that it collects, but it's pretty extensive. We're still learning it as we speak, but out of the 20,466 vehicles, 10.9% were over the speed limit, and of course that's as low as 1%. We're still tweaking that to be able to collect the data to see at what levels the offenders are. And I just thought that it was pretty interesting information that we're going to be able to use.
What's our next planned location for the speed trailer?
I would have to look on the list. There's a lot of people that want it. Probably back up on the 310 North area. Brightwaters wants it, but if anybody has any suggestions or you talk to people, by all means,
there's all kinds of good
let
places.
me know, and we'll add them to the list and get it there as soon as we can.
Taylor
Road, absolutely.
Columbia Road.
This past weekend, we teamed up with Reynoldsburg PD, the State Highway Patrol, and the Sheriff's Office to do an OBI blitz due to the long St. Patty's Day weekend. In the combined efforts, we made 220 traffic stops, 19 OBI arrests, unfortunately, 1 loaded weapon, which was a good thing, 61 traffic citations, and 160 warnings. We had, of those 19 OBIs, we had 8 drug arrests, and those breakdowns are methamphetamine, unprescribed Xanax, and marijuana from the city, and one of the other agencies actually got some cocaine out of it. That's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anything for Bruce? Yes, sir.
Chief, I got a question. On the trailer, I'm 20,000 vehicles. Is that just the vehicles of the direction one direction that the trailer was facing, or is it able to do both?
I believe it's just coming into the city, but it can do both.
Okay, it can go both ways. So that's just coming in. Wow. Okay. Thanks.
I was just, my first question is that stunning to you? That
20,000 vehicles in 7 days' time is extremely stunning on a rural road like that. Of course, it's a route for a lot of the Franklin County residents to get to Licking Heights High School. So, you do have that, but I can't imagine that's more than 400 cars a day.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, I'm just absolutely. I mean, it makes me at the. I'm not indicting you, but it makes me wonder if maybe the thing was set to pick up birds and raccoons and everything else. Here.
Some of the problem is you have a lot of people from like New Albany in that area that work down this way and on 40, and they cut right through Pataskal any way they can.
Plus, birds and raccoons are not allowed to drive legally. So,
and I guess,
but go ahead.
I was going to say my other quick question was task force OVI stuff. Were any of the stopping locations within our city, or were they?
Yeah, we had. Personally, we had. I'm sorry, not personally. The city officers had 34 traffic stops, 11 citations, 3 of the OVIs. And again, we actually were responsible for the meth, the Xanax, and some marijuana.
Was that one targeted checkpoint, or was that just an increased on alert for possible deviant behavior? That thanks to St. Patrick.
Yes, the latter.
The latter. Okay, thank you.
Or basketball.
Or basketball, yeah, or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, a little offensive to put deviant behavior in St. Patrick.
I'm sorry about that. And the holiday, I should say. Thank you. I didn't mean to cast aspersions on anybody's saints.
I had my ancestry DNA done. I'm 15% Irish. So
50%.
15%. Yeah.
15%.
15%. Yeah.
I think it's interesting. That 20,000 number surprises me just a little bit because so many people cut through our town to get to. I think the numbers will be staggering if you put that on Taylor and other places. That's most of these people are cutting through to get to 70, or they're just trying to get to work and they're trying to weave through our city. And but that's amazing, 20,000 cars. Anything else for Bruce? Okay, committee chair reports.
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Tonight for Mel, I'm going to cover the development committee update. The development committee met on March 13th and had a lengthy agenda. We met for about an hour and a half. On your desk is a packet of the information that was shared during that meeting for your review. What we covered, the first thing is just an outline of the active updates that we have. A lot of that is being provided by Scott now in his report. There's a chart in there that shows what the status of many of the developments that we have in the city. And then we had a good discussion on the update of job duties and what has been accomplished by the staff with the addition of the city planner position. Scott was able to use the chart that we used when we decided to hire the city planner and break out what has been accomplished, what has been started, and the status of stuff. We talked, as it was mentioned a little bit ago, about the comprehensive plan and next steps forward. It's been many years since our comprehensive plan has been updated, and we're working to present to council an outline for how we think that should move forward with a subcommittee working on, not a subcommittee, almost an ad hoc committee working on that of residents. So be looking for that in April in your council packet. Had a brief discussion on the expansion of 3 out of our 4 CRA districts. I'll be providing additional information to council. Maps of the proposed and existing are included in the packet as well. Scott was able to give an update on the work to update our subdivision regulations, which have not been updated in many years as well. Scott and Alan have been working a lot on those, and I anticipate us coming forward within the next several months with something to council for review. And then we had a brief discussion on dry versus wet options in the old village, and out of this meeting there were no recommendations, motions, or anything on any of these, but it was a very good meeting, very busy agenda, and we covered a lot of ground, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any other committee chair reports?
Yeah. I've got a streets committee meeting. This evening was held, or it was held this evening. I think you guys all got an agenda in your packet. We did talk about the ramp project, the update on the ramp project. Alan gave us some budgets on that. It looks like the budget is for $605,000 this year. There's $55,000 worth of contingency in there. He went over the maps for what streets will be overlaid, as well as the chip and seal streets. Also, that is going to bid, first notice will go out this week, and then awarding in 2.5 weeks.
April 18th, I think, was April 18th for bid opening.
For bid opening in 2.5, yeah. We did talk about 2 pedestrian crossings that Alan had looked into, Broad and 310, and then again Broad, 310, and Township. We did get some estimates for those costs. That is a pretty costly project, with those being crosswalks with push buttons and other items, necessary items, costing about $110,000. Is that about right, Alan, in total? We're going to look into some other options and looking into possibly connecting that with our, what'd you call it, Alan? Park or Pataskla safe routes?
Plan.
Pardon?
Safe travel plan.
Safe travel plan. So we're going to look at that and see if there's any additional funding opportunities. Alan also gave us an infrastructure project update that he included in his report to council, including the addition of Oak Meadow being surveyed. There was a motion to support a speed reduction proposed by Licking County on Black's Road to take the area that is in Licking County as well as some corporate area of Pataskla where the speed limit is currently 55, take that down to 45. We did, the Streets Committee did have a motion to support that, and we'll be...
That'll be on the April 3rd agenda.
There'll be a resolution for that. And then we got an update on the Public Service Department's equipment and in-house projects. Seemed to be going very well. There were a couple of really low, or I should say economical decisions on some items. One item in particular is a little over budget, but feel that we can work to keep all that within the budget that was allotted last year. One additional item to the agenda was an issue with Legacy Estates and a couple of turn lanes that may or may not be needed, depending on a potential traffic study that the developer will need to do. That will occur after a traffic warrant or a traffic signal warrant analysis will be done by the city. There's a possibility of getting a signal on Legacy and Broad, as well as some an additional notice signal for the fire department. So, looking into those possibilities, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I travel that way every day, and it's pretty exciting sometimes for the folks coming out of Legacy, and then you have the signal at the health center, which is generated only by someone stepping onto or getting onto the.
Doesn't seem to be
actuator.
timed well.
It does well, yeah, but the only time that works is if somebody's coming out of the health center. The problem is there's a lot of traffic lights there. I understand why putting some in for the fire department. That'd be probably a good idea too, because it is sometimes hard to see them coming out, and that is 50 miles. That is still, I think, 50 miles. Is it 30? It's
right
lowers.
there. It's right
It
there.
lowers. So you have people who are coming. You have people who are coming in who are still 50, and you have people who are knowing that it's going to 50. So it's not truly a 35 zone. The sign is right there, I think, by Legacy. So that'd be interesting. I think that might be a good idea to take a look at that whole area.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about that. These are some development obligations that Legacy Development had as far as turn lanes, not on Broad Street, but on Watkins and on Blacks. And they're looking to evaluate whether those turn lanes are necessary. If the signal could be warranted on Broad Street at the Legacy intersection, then there's a possibility to have the developer put that signal in lieu of one or two turn lanes.
And I don't know what the people at the health center are going to say if you. That's a lot of traffic signals right there. Boom, boom, boom.
Back to back. Yeah.
Back to back. Although only two of them will be actuated when necessary. The fire station, and the health center.
Yeah. Correct.
So. Okay.
Any other committee chair report? Yes, sir.
The Utilities Committee met on March 13th. It was about a 2-hour meeting. We covered lots of stuff. I'll go through the easy stuff. River Forest Lift Station, we got an update on that from Nathan. He's given an update here tonight, so I don't need to go any more on that. We had a discussion about the pressure issues in the Sugar Mill subdivision. There had been a meeting with the HOA and several. As a utility chair, I attended that meeting. They had some, I think, pretty legitimate questions about pressure, but we have begun to investigate how we may help them with that problem. No votes came out of the meeting. I think essentially the utility committee asked Nathan to get back with us on what it would cost to put pressure vessels in houses, which may be the best solution, at least in the short term, to that problem. Also, we did discuss an increase to the tap fees in the city, but I think that I know that that's another item that we're looking for a little bit more input. I would look for either one of those to be coming soon to council via the utility committee as a recommended change. I think we all agree that there may be some increases in tap fees. We just don't know how much. We talked about what would be the utility department equivalent of the ramp, be it the swamp or the swami. We don't know which it's called yet, but we went through a long discussion about that, and Mr. Cooey is going to work on identifying specific areas that would be included with that, and we will. He'll come back to the utility committee, and we're also providing him input. So anybody on council that might have an interest in what you'd want to see in a comprehensive sewer and water asset management initiative, I think he would Swami. That would be Swami. And then a large majority of our discussion involved the ongoing discussions between the city of Pataskala and Southwest Licking Sewer and Water. The administrations of each group have been in dialogue, and this relates back a little bit to the legal issues that the city went through with them, but also creatively finding ways. We realize that necessitates a revisiting of the original agreement between the two, and the two administrations have been working quite well, I think, together in parsing out possibilities, but we're not to the point yet where I think we're still looking at a wide variety of options. Andy or Nathan, you're welcome to jump in here as to how we might move forward with working with the district. So,
BJ and I will meet with them Wednesday to have some other discussions. And maybe upon that, we'll have some more info to share and found some other ideas.
And I don't know if Mr. King and Mr. Cooey saw. I kind of put a tentative Monday, April 10th, was it? I don't know if that'll work with Andy and Suzanne's schedules, but if you guys get a chance, take a look and see what. I have a meeting at 7 o'clock that night, but if we could meet earlier again, that'll give us time to talk. Nathan time to talk about the two things that I talked about him getting back with us on, and also it'll take place after the meeting that you guys have scheduled. So I'm also happy to answer any questions if anybody has any specifics.
Very good. Any other committee chair reports? All right, on to ordinances. And due to the fact that Kathy was auditioning for that show, The Voice, she strained her vocal cords. I'll be speaking tonight. Ordinance 2017-4276 for a third reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Hayes. Third reading. An ordinance to rezone properties located at 72 North Hazleton Etna Road, parcel number 064-309102-00.000, and 144 East Broad Street, parcel number 064-309030-00.000, from the medium density residential R20 zoning classification to the Professional Research Office PRO zoning classification.
Move to adopt.
I have a motion.
Second.
Motion to adopt and a second. That was Mr. Barstow and Mr. Hicken. Discussion and roll.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Walther,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Ordinance passes. Ordinance 2017-4281 for a third reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Hayes. Third reading, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2017.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
I
Barstow?
make a motion to amend ordinance 2017-4281 by substitution.
I have a motion to amend.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion on the motion to amend? Okay, roll, please.
Hicken,
Yes.
Walther,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Back to the original ordinance.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, okay, that's right.
We have charter change. We have
That
to,
is-
we have
that
to
is
let
correct.
this wait because
Yep.
we haven't, we have
Does
we
everybody
amended on third
understand what
reading.
we're doing here with our charter change? It goes to a fourth reading. Very good. Thank you. Any desire to take Resolution 022 off the table? Seeing none. Motions? Anybody have any motions tonight? All right. Additional citizens' comments. Anybody wish to speak? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
I just want to encourage municipalities. I've been actually working with
Name,
one of the
address.
incorporated communities here in Licking County with their medical marijuana conversations. I know it was a really interesting conversation this evening. If you're interested in learning more about what other communities here in Licking County are doing, I would encourage you to reach out to Jim Lenner. He's the village administrator for the village of Johnstown. They have an existing manufacturer in their community called Apex Supercritical, who operate in this segment. Apex creates a CO2 extraction unit for organic essential oils. They originally were working in lavenders and vanilla and found out that it really made a very interesting marijuana oil for cannabis level edibles. And so they've been using that in Colorado and California and other states. They were actually, as part of Inc.com's fastest growing companies in the United States, they were number 5 3 years ago and number 236 last year. Andy Joseph has his bachelor's and master's degree from Ohio State University in engineering. He's a veteran-owned company and a very interesting person when you talk about his dynamic and understanding of the industry. So I would encourage you to, if you're interested in learning more about that side of the equation, not commenting on your approach, but certainly if you want to learn more, there's a community right here in our backyard that is looking into it.
For the record, that was Nathan Strum, Grow-Licking County. Any other citizens' comments? Anybody wish to speak tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll go roundy round. We'll start with Michael Powell tonight. Got anything?
One quick thing. Our church every year has an impact week where we go out in the community and we find identify projects that need to be done. It could be anything as cleaning up a park, laying mulch. So right now we're kind of in the phase of identifying those projects, and so just putting it out there. If anybody can think of anything that you might need done, we supply the work. Whoever needs it done supplies the actual supplies. So if you can think of anything, just contact me and let me know.
Well, we got a list a mile long.
I got a broken toe. Does that include my house?
No.
If I remember correctly, it was your church last year that did Freedom Park.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Grace Fellowship. We have a campus in Pickerington, Upper Arlington, and then Licking Heights, and that was our first year out here. So, anything.
I think I supplied the wheelbarrow.
Yes.
Anything else? Okay, Andy?
Two things. Unfortunately, Sarah wasn't here tonight for the Pataska Lions, and I know, Mayor, you're going to mention some stuff. I have some information on the Easter egg hunt that's coming up on April 1st. I'm certain that we can get copies of this. I don't know if this can go anywhere on the city's information.
It's already there.
This is already on there?
Yep.
Great. So it's a big event. It's 17,000 eggs this year rather than 15,000 because 15 was just not quite enough. So I have them all in my office, and there's quite a few of them. So it's a lot. Second thing, this weekend with weather, we're going to have a small labor force working on the police shooting range. I'm hopeful to enlist Alan and Nate and Chief's help with getting it prepared, ready for getting these pads poured, getting the sleeves done, getting all that stuff ready for then the targets to be assembled. And hopefully the next steps after that will be a shed of some type that will allow for equipment to be stored and for an area for reports to be written. So we're hopeful to get this done before spring happens so that the police can be excellent marksmen. That's all I have.
Suzanne?
I have nothing. Thank you.
And I guess 17,000 eggs, that won't even be one per car on Havens Corner. So we need to make more eggs.
There is an interesting twist that the little kids this year, instead of having gifts or having something in the eggs, they'll actually just bring their eggs back up, whether it be 1 or 50, doesn't matter. This is the 0 to 3. And they'll have a bag that's already put together for them, so every small kid will get the exact same amount of toys or candy or whatever, which was a problem apparently last year.
And I want to thank Jason and Alan for putting up the banners today. We've got them all over town promoting that. Branham Sign Company, again, contributed, and they remake the banners every year because obviously the dates and the time change. Did you mention the time? It's noon. We're starting at noon.
There's quite an itinerary.
Okay, well, and we don't have to go through all of it, but it is starting at noon this year, and that's just the registration. Years before, we just told everybody it was at 2. Everybody came right at 2, and we released the kids. So this year, it's going to be starting registration at noon. It's going to ramp up to a certain point, and then we'll release.
1:45 is actually the opening ceremony.
Okay.
So,
but we've invited State Highway Patrol. Our K-9 officers are going to be there. It's a good afternoon event. So. And a pancake breakfast, the last one for the month, down at the Jefferson Street Firehouse, the American Legion and the Boy Scouts, and their blueberry pancakes. So don't miss that from 8 to 12. Mr. Hicken.
My thanks to tonight's speakers, Chad, Justin, Nate, and that's all I have.
Yeah, thank you, Nate. Mr. Barstow.
About a dozen things to talk about.
Very good. Go ahead.
The first one is there'll be a Finance Committee meeting May 1st, 6:30. And I'll get that, Kathy, I'll get that to you. Sorry about the confusion on the date. That'll be to recommend to Council the implementation of the budget schedule for the 2018 budget. So I've already talked to BJ and Jamie about that, so they'll be ready to go. Motion to adjourn.
My motion to adjourn. Need a second. Everybody seconded? We'll just take Suzanne for that one. Any discussion? And roll, please.
Walter.
Yes.
Powell.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Barstow.
Yes.
Hicken.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
I was settling in for a long. He got me on that one.
I have about